Hello, everybody. Can you all hear me? Just give me that. Yeah, okay. Perfect. Excellent. Nice to see you all. Now, I do have a few apologies for tonight, so that's fine. And just to also let you know again that I am recording tonight's session, just so particularly for those people who can't be here, they'll be able to obviously, join in and watch tomorrow or the next day or whatever it might be. Now, sorry that you're all nice and settled, but does everyone mind jumping up and going and getting something from your pantry, because we're going to read labels together tonight, okay? So just go and grab anything that's got a label on it, okay? And I will sit here.
Label on.
Yes, anything with a label on it, Edith. Sorry to make you move straight away.
That's all right. Okay, anything with a label on it.
Anything at all.
I'm going to go dry. How you can hear me, can you?
Yeah, I still can.
Yeah. Oops, I've got to be careful what I say.
Oh, no.
And what about a peanut butter? Would that be okay?
Yeah, for sure. Yep, definitely.
Okay. I got my hearing aid on with the microphone so I can hear you better.
I know. You've got such a snazzy setup tonight, Edith.
Yeah,
Look at you. You can be anywhere in your house and we've still got you clearly. Don't worry. Okay, thank you, everyone. Sorry, I should have made mention of that before we started. But so tonight's 1 hour session is all about nutrition. Okay, so there's a lot of content that I'll need to go through. Of course, ask me questions at any time. Like I said, I will send the link for this recording afterwards, but I will also send the slides as well. So don't worry about trying to, jot everything down. I'll send those out to you. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Edith. Now, I won't make her introduce herself, but we've got lovely Katie joining us tonight as well. So Katie is a new group member who just joined last week or the week before, Katie. I've lost track now. But yes, so Katie, her family are at high risk of type 2 diabetes. So she's going to be part of our group going forward. So that's lovely. There's never enough Katies in the world. So we're very lucky to have two here tonight. Okie dokie. Let me share my screen with you all. So then, dun, 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 dun. Okie dokie. So session 2 is run by me and is all about nutrition. Now, I'm just going to do this for Katie because, of course, this is sort of her first session. But Katie, you would already be very polite and lovely anyway, so I'm sure this won't be any new news to you. But please be on time, have your phone on silent, give everyone a chance to speak, no talking, no gossiping. And as always, just let me know if you can't come. That's always sort of the biggest sticking point. So tonight we are going to be chatting about the facts around fat, fibre, salt, sugar, alcohol. We're going to have a look at our labels, and we're also going to sort of touch on eating habits because for a lot of people it's actually not about what they're eating, it's so much more about how they're eating and what their routine is and what their rhythm is and that type of thing. So we will also sort of touch on that a little bit too. Okay, now if I'm talking too fast, please let me know, but I do like to get through a lot of stuff tonight. Okay, so the healthy eating goals. After the end of these 12 months, this is what we're aiming to do. Decrease the amount of fat, in particular, the amount of saturated and trans fat. We're going to increase the amount of fibre. We're going to decrease the amount of salt. We're going to increase the amount of physical activity we're doing. And if all that happens, if one of your goals is, you will then go on to lose some weight, theoretically. Okay. So the benefits of healthy eating. Well, like you guys know, there are so many wonderful benefits to healthy eating. decreases obesity, decreases your risk of having high body weight, decreases the insulin resistance, which is what obviously diabetes is all about, decreases your total cholesterol. And specifically when it comes to cholesterol, we really want to look at your triglyceride level and also your LDL. So the LDL is what we look at and what we term the bad cholesterol. The HDL is the good cholesterol. And it's actually all about the ratio of the HDL to the LDL. We want the HDL to be as high as possible and the LDL to be low, okay? But when you've got high cholesterol, that ratio is out. So as in your LDL and your triglycerides are too high and your HDL is low. So, and also healthy eating can result in lowering your blood pressure as well, which is also incredibly important. So this is the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating, which I'm sure everyone has come across at some point in their life or during school and all those things. Look, it can be helpful for some people just to sort of see the things grouped together, but really it's just for you to sort of get a bit of an understanding about the percentages of what your diet should be made up from. So like you can see, we want to see the most coming from veggies and beans and legumes and that type of thing. Again, just as much coming from really good complex carbohydrates, so whole grains, so all the sort of brown pastas and couscous and rices and all those things. And then more like a quarter of good quality protein, quarter of dairy, and then also the fruits. And then there's sometimes things, which is all the discretionary or all the sugary and sweet things. Now, unfortunately, in Australia, a lot of people are replacing that discretionary section with like the big, huge piece of the pie. So there's too much discretionary happening and not enough of the actual really good stuff that we want to be eating, okay? So even if just for you, just to sort of get a bit of a snapshot and to think, well, actually, how much am I eating of all those things? Are my portions and are my sort of percentages a little bit out? It's just a good one just to look and compare against. So the facts about fat. So yes, you should only eat a small amount of fat. Now, back in the day, we used to really go on and on and on about fat, and everyone was really preoccupied with how much fat we were all eating. And if you wanted to lose weight, you need to cut out all the fat. And it is still that way to an extent, but now we're a little bit more intelligent and a little bit wiser. Now we really specifically want people to be cutting out the saturated fat and the trans fats, okay? Because those are the fats that are now officially linked to all the negative health consequences as such, okay? Now, where saturated fat can be found is things like red meat or in high-fat dairy items. So if you're somebody that eats you have to eat a whole lot of full cream dairy products in order to get a lot of saturated fat, which some people do. Coconut oil, you know, when coconut oil was so super fashionable and everyone was just guzzling it by the bottle, it is so high in saturated fat. It is concerning that people are consuming a lot of coconut oil because the saturated fat is through the roof. Of course, you're also going to find a lot of it in deep fried foods and also your processed snacks. So those are the sort of places that we tend to find saturated and trans fats. So here in Australia, we're quite good now at restricting manufacturers from using trans fats. So they can't use them as readily as they can in other countries. But you will still find them in sort of like baked goods. Like the best example is if you think of like a cream cake that's in a supermarket, that bad boy has got a lot of trans fats in it. Okay, so that's one of the really obvious areas because the trans fats help to sort of keep it on the shelf for longer as such. But it's not such an issue here in Australia. In America, it's still quite a big issue, the trans fat stuff. So we're looking to cut out saturated fat and trans fats. But on the flip side, we want you to be having a whole lot more mono unsaturated and poly unsaturated fats. Now, we find those in things like avocados and nuts and olive oils, like fatty fishes like tuna steak or salmon or mackerel or sardines, that type of thing. So we don't want to just group fats all together. We need to make sure that we're being really specific about what fats we should and shouldn't be cutting out. When the sort of Atkins diet, and it's still very similar now in the whole keto diet, that that diet is a really concerning diet, because what it's actually doing is people are consuming way too much saturated fat when they are on those diets, because of course they're eating huge amounts of, you know, meats and that type of thing, and not enough of the fiber, of the just like we saw with the healthy eating guide. When you're eating half of your diet of just protein, you're cutting out so much of the complex carbohydrates and the fiber and the dairy and all those other things. So if you've had people say to you, oh, you should just do keto, or you should just do, you know, it's not very helpful, because it's not actually a great way to be eating as such, and your saturated fat intake goes through the roof. So just like you can see here, saturated and trans, eat in small amounts. Unsaturated fats, a much better choice, and please feel free to eat those. Dietary fiber. Now, I am a huge fan of dietary fiber, and if I had one wish for the world, it would be that everybody ate more fiber, because it is such a wonderful product, and it will go a long way to improving your health simply by increasing the amount of fiber that you are eating. So it is so good for good health. It is also really filling. So fibrous foods fill up your gut more. So you actually feel fuller from eating more fibrous foods. And they are also what then goes through to bulk up the stools in your bowels as well. Okay, so it helps to it helps your gut, but it also helps to produce really nice looking stools. So one of the other things that fiber is so good for now, because we've done a lot of research into fiber and gut health, is your gut. So what we should all be aiming for is 30 different plants each and every week. So that's not just your fruits and your veggies, that's your beans and your nuts and your rices and your whole grains, you know, all those things. Anything that comes from the ground is considered a plant food. So we really want the variety and the diversity. That's really, really important. So everyone should be aiming for 30 different plant foods each and every week. And on top of that, women should be having around 25 grams of fiber per day. And men, Anshul, you should be having around 30 grams of fiber per day. Okay, so I've just got a couple of examples here of how much fiber is in what. So a cup of brown rice, around 4 grams, a pear, around 5.5, a cup of broccoli, 5 grams. One of the best sources of fiber is your wholemeal pasta though. Now, when I went through and did those questionnaires with you all at the very start in our intro session, majority of you screwed your face up at wholemeal pasta, okay? Now, I know that there are some that taste like cardboard, but you do need to try and have it even just once a week. I'm not asking, or what you could do as well, which is what I've been doing with my children, is having half and half. So I will actually cook a bit of a mixture of white pasta and wholemeal. So if you're wanting to sort of ease into it, then you can also do that. But it is such an easy meal to have some wholemeal pasta and some pasta sauce of, you know, something delicious that you've made, because it's such a fantastic hit of fiber. Okay, so definitely start to reconsider your love-hate relationship with wholemeal pasta, please. So there are a couple of, I mean, I don't sort of discuss too much about the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber. Fiber is fiber and it's wonderful. But basically, the fiber that you are consuming, we know now, has a big impact on reducing the amount of cholesterol in your blood. It really helps your blood glucose levels. And again, really good for bowel health, and also can go about sort of trying to, can help to reduce your risk of some cancers that are related to the bowel and rectal cancer, that kind of thing. So like you guys already know, multigrain wholemeal breads, going for the browner things in life as such is going to be really beneficial for you when trying to get the necessary amount of fiber. And that's the big reason why we sort of aim for the 2 pieces of fruit each and every day and the 5 serves of veggies each and every day, because if you're consuming all that, we know that you're getting plenty of fiber as well. Okay, so fiber. Salt. Now, we in Australia consume way too much salt. Okay, now no one's surprised by that, but you actually, for good health, you actually only need a really small amount of sodium or salt. in your diet. Okay, our body doesn't actually need a whole lot of it. And what we know now is that too much of it absolutely leads to high blood pressure, but it also can lead to conditions with your heart, to kidney problems, and also can increase your risk of stroke. Now, salt is a really sneaky one because what it is its flavor, and the manufacturers love to add it. And one of the places where we find a lot of salt is in breads. So it's a good habit to get into. I mean, depending on where you buy your bread from. I mean, if you buy it from a bakery, you'll find that they don't necessarily have the sort of nutrition labels on there. But if you're somebody that buys bread from the supermarket, just become familiar with what your label is telling you about how much salt is in it. We want you to be choosing products that have less than 400 milligrams of sodium per 100 gram of product. So when we come to looking at labels, we'll be able to have a look at that. But that's a good rule of thumb. Anything under 400 milligrams per 100 gram of product is what we should be aiming for. And basically, just to give you a visual, a teaspoon of sodium, a teaspoon of salt is all that we really should be adding to our diet per day. Edith is rolling her eyes saying, oh my God, that is not much. And it's not much. It's really not much at all. Okay. But it's just a good one to be really, really aware of. Okay. And if you're a family or you're somebody that puts salt and pepper on the table and then everyone goes crazy and cracks and puts salt all over the place, perhaps you could discuss the idea with your family about not having the salt and pepper. The pepper is fine. The pepper is no issue whatsoever. But when we've got a lot of salt in the food already, and then we're adding more salt to it at the table, we've got a lot of salt that we're then consuming. And it's, I mean, a good sort of habit to get into, I suppose, is flavoring your food with other things. You know, it might be that you just want to add more fresh herbs or dried herbs or chili or pepper, just as like I said, or things that are going to flavor it, but not necessarily with the salt hit as well. Okay. But just like I sort of already mentioned, processed foods are always going to have heaps and heaps of salt in them. So the less things that you buy in a packet, you can be more confident about that you're not eating quite as much salt. Okay. And also being really aware of how much salt you are actually adding when you sit down to eat your meal, Miss Edith. Okay. So sugar. Now, I'm whipping through these, okay? So please stop me and say, I've got a question, or if anything's not making sense. So sugar has been really vilified in the media, of course, because everyone was trying to quit sugar permanently. And we don't really hear about that idea anymore because I think everyone quickly found out that it's just not sustainable. You can't just quit sugar forever. It's a really hard thing to quit and it makes your life very boring. So we don't want you to quit sugar. We just want you to be aware of where there can be a lot of sugar and to understand really well about how much sugar you actually should be having, okay? Now, there are two different types of sugars, basically. We refer to them as the naturally occurring sugars, which, like you can see, are in the food already. So the banana has grown and it has got sugar in it because it's a sweet food as such. But the thing about these naturally occurring sugars found in vegetables and milks and that type of thing is that they also come with them wonderful minerals and wonderful nutrients. So yes, there's sugar in there, but we're also getting really good whacks and hits of other benefits, okay? The concern is when we're looking at all the added sugar and what these products tend to have in them, for example, the ones that you can see here, is they have no, I shouldn't say no, but very few nutritional benefits to them. Okay, so we're looking at things like Tim Tams and soft drinks and, you know, discretionary items. So that's where there's been sugar added to the product during the manufacturing process. Okay, so they don't come with anything else really. They just come with a big energy hit. And then you feel really good, you enjoy them and they're fun, but then that's pretty much it. Okay. So again, just dropping little tips about the reading label stuff, which I'll reiterate again shortly, but 4 grams of sugar equals 1 teaspoon. Okay, so when you're reading labels, you can do that you can sort of get that idea pretty easily. So for the ladies, we can be having around 6 to 7 teaspoons of sugar. For Ange, he should be having around 7 to 8. So he can have a little bit more, but that's added sugar. Okay. I'm not worried about the sugar that's in dairy products or fruits and vegetables, that type of thing. That's specifically about the added sugar. Okay. So it's actually not a lot of sugar. It's not a lot of added sugar that we should be having per day, because we really just don't need it. We get so much energy and things from the other foods we're eating. These discretionary foods are not, they taste delicious and they're fun and they're fantastic, but they're not required every single day. Okay. Just like going back to that healthy eating guide, there are sometimes food. Okay. Unfortunately. So just to reiterate that, around 6 to 8, teaspoons of added sugar each and every day. Now, alcohol. So the thing about alcohol is, and I don't know whether you guys drink any alcohol at all or not, but it is, again, a bit like a discretionary product in that it doesn't have any nutritional quality to it. Now, I know that there's been research done and they've sort of come out saying red wine is really good for whatever. And I mean, and we do, I mean, sure, look, there might be some, small health benefits there, but at the end of the day, alcohol is still a toxin and it is still something that your body is not all that enthusiastic about. So it is really important that we do err on the side of caution when it comes to alcohol, because the thing with alcohol is that when you consume it, your body can't do anything with it, basically. So with that, alcohol, it's a toxin, so your body's got to work overtime to digest it and get rid of it as such. So the problem with that is that when you're sort of out and about, and let's say you're eating a lot and you're drinking a lot, what happens is that your body has to prioritize the digesting of the alcohol. So what it then in turn does is it uses the alcohol as the energy source, and it simply stores all the food that you've consumed, because the alcohol toxin is its priority. So it needs to digest the alcohol first. So that's sometimes where people get a little bit unstuck, is if they're eating, and I know that doesn't quite make a lot of sense. It's not that I'm condoning that you just sit and drink all night and don't eat anything. That's not the message. But the message is simply that it is still a toxin. Your body, whatever food that you are consuming, it has to be stored because your body has to digest the alcohol first. So it's really important that you do really, I mean, of course, we all drink too much at times, but really stick to those not 2 more than standard drinks per night. And overall, the general rule of thumb is 10 standard drinks per week. Okay. And coming into Christmas, I mean, some people do tend to drink a little bit more, but always really trying to, just like it says there, have water in between drinks, have smaller portions as such, and really try to avoid the mixed drinks. So in terms of having I don't even know what, the Coke and whatever it might be, trying not to have the soft drink as well as the alcohol. Okay. But again, it's not, I mean, for some people they don't, they choose not to drink, and that's great. And some people choose to drink, and that's also fine. So it's not a matter of cutting all these things out. It's just being aware and being able just to consume things moderately, okay, in moderation. So it's not the I quit sugar bandwagon. It's not the I quit alcohol bandwagon. It's just finding that middle ground that feels good for you and for your body, of course. Okay, so reading labels. Now, this is a really important skill to have, because manufacturers want you to go through a supermarket and pick up their product. Okay. Now they're hoping that you make your choice based on what the front of the packet says. Okay. Because that's the bit that you're seeing as such. But what we know is that basically a lot of the time they're nothing but lies. Okay. They're trying to get you to think, wow, this is a really super healthy product, I should definitely buy this. But what we know is that the actual accurate information is always on the back of the food product. Okay. Now, we don't need to be able to read labels so intricately that we can really analyze the food as well. We just need to get a bit of an understanding so then we can sort of make better, worst, good choices as such. Now, I know, Katie, you won't have your book yet, but did everyone get this in the post? Yes? Excellent. Good job. At the very back of it, like this is the back cover of it, there's a really helpful little shopping card here. And you will get yours, Katie, soon, hopefully. But what this is a little credit card size card. And basically, it helps you to read labels because it's got total fat, saturated fat, sugar, salt, fiber, and then it's got best choice, okay, sometimes poor choice. Okay, so it just gives you the opportunity to very easily and quickly match your food product to this to see, oh yeah, that's good, or whoa, that's really bad, you know. So that's a good one to start carrying around with you in your wallet for when you do go to the supermarket, okay, because that can be quite helpful. So looking at food products, now the first things first, the ingredients list. Okay, so whatever the first ingredient is what the product is made up of most, if that makes sense. So they're listed as from largest to smallest. Okay, so mine here is 73% tomatoes. So this is like a what even is this? Like a Napolitana sauce, like a pasta sauce thing. So that's already feeling okay. So that's quite good. You know that it's that it's 73% tomatoes. If you pick up a product and it says it's 73% rice malt syrup, then perhaps you might want to reconsider that option because it's really pretty much telling us that it's just going to be full of sugar. Okay, so that's the first thing, reading the ingredient list and seeing what is this product actually made up of most. Okay, I don't get too wound up about all the sort of different additives and things to an extent. I mean, we also have to be really realistic. I mean, I have children, so, you know, sometimes I just need to get a meal on the table. You know, I'm not overly worried about sort of all the intricacies about food manufacturing. I do try my best to sort of, you know, make from scratch 98% of the time, but sometimes you do just need a pasta sauce thing, you know, sometimes you just need to get a meal on the table and get the day done, you know. So really, for me personally, that's the main thing that I look at in the ingredients list. What is the largest ingredient? What is this thing made up of the most? Now, when it comes to the label, all labels will have a per serving column, and then they will also have a per 100 gram column. Okay, now it's important to note that we always go by the per 100 gram column. That's what we compare. So when you're looking, let's say for example you're using your card, it's always the 100 gram column because that is the uniform way that we can compare products. Okay, because the thing with the per serving is that the manufacturer decides what a serving actually is. Okay, and most times it's very different to what your serving would actually be of that product. So that's just one to be really mindful about and to actually get familiar. Like this says that there's 4 servings in this. I don't know whether this would feed my family. Well, I'm not sure really, but I think we would probably eat more than that, to be fair. So tell me, what product have you got there, Anshul? I can't see what you've got hiding. Oh, black garlic. So fancy. What do you do with that?
I put this in pastas and stuff like that. So it just makes it a bit taste different, I guess. It's got 100% garlic, so I guess that's good in a way.
That's good. Yeah, that's great. Yep.
And I've just read the label as well. But yeah, it looks all right because it's 100% garlic, so I guess it's okay.
That's right. Exactly. That looks really good. Excellent. I'm so fancy at your house. My goodness. I am not pulling out the black garlic here. Wow. Okay. So what we sort of need to I suppose, get really familiar with is just like I said at the very start. So let's start from bottom up. So sodium, okay? So mine here says per 100 gram of this product, there is 311 milligrams of sodium, okay? So by theory, it's less than 400 milligrams, so that's not too bad, and it falls into the sort of okay sometimes category. So which is quite a fair statement. It's probably not something I would have even every week, really. So the salt is still up there. The salt content is still quite up there, but it's not in the crazy realm. Katie, what's your product?
I've got can of soup, I guess.
Yes, and what's the salt in that?
305. I thought I picked up the less salt one, but I didn't. That's in the pantry too. I want to go and compare it now. But it's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. And that's actually better than I thought, to be fair. I thought that would be higher than that.
Yeah.
So that's quite good. Excellent. Okay. So far, what is yours, Edith? Have you got peanut butter? Have I lost Edith? Maybe. That's fine. Okay, so that's good then. So our sodium is so far looking good. So we always want that to be under 400 milligrams. Okay, so that's fine. Then we can also have a look at the carbohydrate. Okay, so carbohydrate is a sugar. Now, when we see that it's got carbohydrate and then it's got sugars underneath it. Now it's those sugars that are the added sugars. Okay, so when you see, so my product here per 100 grams has got 7.6 grams of carbohydrate in that, but of that 6.6 grams are added sugar. Okay, so I know that if I go back to my idea of 4 grams equals 1 teaspoon of sugar, that this has got 6.6 grams of added sugar. So the sugar actually isn't too bad. So I'm looking at about 1 and a bit teaspoons of added sugar that I've had here from this product. Of course, if we looked at a soft drink or something like that, it would be more like 16 teaspoons of added sugar. Okay, so this is not a really sugary product as such. Edith, have you got your peanut butter there? Yep. What's the sugar content, Edith? Hang on. Yeah, just unmute yourself.
Right. I've got sugar here. It is, I think it's 17.
17?
17, yeah. Sugar, yep.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And sometimes we will find, yeah, and is that the Bega peanut butter? Is that what I saw? It's Bega?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, excellent. Yeah, good. So thanks, Edith. That's great. So what you'll find is I actually started buying the Sanitarium peanut butter purely because of the sugar content. Because you'll find that, Bega used to be Kraft, but then they bought them out and whatever else. But Kraft's peanut butter was always a lot more sugary than what I found the Sanitarium one to be. So the Kraft now Bega peanut butter does tend to be a fair bit higher in sugar than other ones. So that's just something else to be a little bit more mindful of, is when you are actually looking at them, what is in there and how much sugar and things. So coming up now to fat. Okay, so it'll say fat total, and then again, it will give the breakdown. So mine does have saturated fat in it, but it says it's got less than 0.1 of a gram. So that's a very, very, very small amount, which is what I would expect though, because this is a tomato sauce. So if there was a lot of saturated fat in there, it wouldn't make sense because there's not saturated fat in tomatoes and things. So Dee, what's your product there? Hang on, Dee, just unmute yourself. Oh, you've got a doozy here. Just unmute yourself.
Yep. Biscoff.
Yes.
Crunchy spread.
Uh-huh. What's your saturated fat?
7.9
per 100 grams?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if we were looking at our little card here, that would well and truly fall into the poor choice because we want it to be less than 3 grams per 100 gram. Okay. So that has got a lot of saturated fat in it. What's the sugar content of it, Dee?
Uh,
Per 100 grams.
36.2.
Whoa, that is a doozy. Holy moly. You've really
I
come.
wanted to cook with at the shop.
Did you? Yeah, of course. Dee runs a really busy cafe, if I haven't already said that. So I'm sure, and Biscoff is quite popular currently. I'm seeing Biscoff everywhere.
Yeah.
But so now can you advise your clients and customers that really it's quite a poor choice?
I haven't used it yet. It's not been opened.
Oh, good. But this is the thing though, like it's not until you actually start looking at the labels that you start getting an understanding of, wow, you know, it's not just the saturated fat, it's also chock loaded with sugar as well, you know. So getting a bit more familiar with what they're telling you is really helpful. And again, it's not that this is now a Biscoff ban party, but it's just more about the idea of I can have it, but I'm just going to have it really occasionally and really sparingly. Okay, good one, dear. I love it when someone brings something like that. And then we don't really look, the protein is not one that we can really compare so much. I mean, it's more about, I ask my clients to have protein at every single snack and every single meal. So this is a tomato sauce, again, like I said, so I wouldn't expect it to have much protein in it whatsoever. However, Edith's peanut butter would have more protein in it, of course, because nuts are a good source of protein as such. So for example, my protein content is 1.7 grams per 100 gram. So Edith, what's yours per 100 gram for protein? Just unmute yourself. Yep.
According to this, it's 5.3.
Good.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yep. Again, I know I'll keep going on about my special sanitarium peanut butter, but the protein is higher as well in the sanitarium. So, which is what we're wanting. We're wanting everyone to be consuming good amounts of protein because it's so important for you. So yeah, it's just a good exercise just to sort of start getting a little bit familiar with what your labels are actually telling you. There's another good app, and I'm pretty sure it's called Food Switch. It's a good one because what it is you have your phone, and we're all pros at scanning things now, but you can actually scan the barcode on the product and then it comes up with the traffic light system and will say the protein is good, the saturated fat is bad, and the sugar is bad, you know. But then it will also give you alternatives of other versions as such. So just like the peanut butter thing, you might scan the vegan one, but then it will say actually the low salt sanitarium one is a better option, you know. So it's a really good app if you're somebody that's into apps. I'm personally not, but I know that a lot of people are and can be really helpful. It makes going around the supermarket a bit tiring at the start when you're standing there scanning everything, but once you've got the things that you like to buy, it's really easy. So that can be quite a helpful one as well. So because obviously it's not, when it comes to food and nutrition, we're not always going to get it right. I do not eat perfectly, and I don't expect anyone to eat perfectly because it is impossible. And perfection actually doesn't even exist when it comes to food. It's just about doing your very best most of the time. So the one thing that helps us do our very best is reading the labels and actually becoming more informed and not choosing products simply based on what the front of them looks like, because generally it's pretty deceiving. Now mine actually has it on there, is the health star rating. I guarantee Dee's Biscoff does not have the health star rating on it, because it is actually up to the discretion of the manufacturer as to whether or not they want to put the health star rating on it. So what we tend to find is that products that want to showcase how wonderful they are will put it on. Those who are making Biscoff are not going to put it on, you know, because they don't actually want you to see that it doesn't even get a star. So again, sure, you can sort of, you can choose a product based on the health star rating. It goes some way to being a little bit helpful, but it doesn't go the whole way. There's still a few flaws in that product, in that sort of in that system at this stage. But other than that, that's pretty much when it comes to choosing foods. This card will be very helpful for you again, because obviously it's just a nice snapshot. And yes, it will be a bit tedious going through the supermarket initially, but I promise it gets a bit easier. Oh, okay. This is just that same. Yes.
If you got excited about Biscoff,
Yes.
on the weekend I discovered this label, and if you can read, it has 103 grams of sugar per 100 gram. How is even that possible?
Is that a condiment?
It's a soft drink mix.
Oh, that is, I can't even do the math on that. How many times does 4 go into that?
25 more than that. Yeah.
That is extortionate. That is so high in sugar. So, I mean, I just find it so fun and interesting to actually see what manufacturers can get away with, so that's amazing. And that is so high in sugar. I can't, yeah, wowzers. And I hope, did you buy it?
Yes.
And
So I'm going to use it sparingly, but I looked at it after I bought it, and I'm like 103 grams per 100 grams. How does that make sense? So I find it funny, but I'm scared of. So I'm going to use it a little bit only when I'm being really good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's funny, but I'm also a bit scared of it. I do get that. That's very true. And is it like a cordial? Like, is it like a dry mix that you add to water?
Yeah, it's like a rose sherbet kind of thing. So you can just add it to ice creams or yogurt or anything.
You cannot be adding that to ice cream, like as if we need to add more sugar to the ice cream. Can I just say, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Anyway, I look forward to you not consuming that. That's good, Ash. Thanks. Okay, so so this is that's just the label again that we've just spoken about that you've all got in there. And Katie, yours will be coming soon. Oh yeah, sorry, I've jumped the gun on these. Yes, food switch. So I was right. So yeah, like you can see, there's a couple of examples of what the sort of app looks like. So just scanning the barcode and then it coming up with the sort of traffic light system. So it can be quite helpful if it's something that you sort of, like to do as such. I will go on about this a lot. Small changes make a big, big difference. We don't, like I've sort of said 15 times already tonight, we don't need to stop consuming all sugar. We don't need to stop consuming all salt. We just need to tweak things and to make things better, slightly. So the things that we should all be sort of really aware of is eating a wide variety of foods. Number one, try not to get stuck in the rut of eating the same old 3 veg every single night of the week. We want to see variety. We want to see diversity, okay? It's going to be absolutely one of the best things that you can do. Going back to that idea with the fibre, about 30 different plants each and every week, okay? Number one. If you're somebody that really likes to eat full cream dairy, but you think, oh, maybe I'll try and, swap out for some low-fat milk as such, that can be quite helpful for people. Being really mindful of portion control. So again, it doesn't matter what you eat. If you are eating too much food and too much of anything, you will continue to gain weight. So portion control is a really tricky one to master, but it takes a bit of time and it takes a bit of tough love as well, because it can be hard to say, gosh, I am loving this meal, but I've had enough. It can be really hard to have to put your knife and fork down and say, I've had enough. We all have the idea and the mentality of you've got to finish everything that's in front of you, but you actually don't. You need to get much better at recognizing your own body's sort of cues to feel like I actually have checked in. I've checked in with how I'm feeling, and I'm feeling satisfied. I'm not feeling stuffed. I'm not feeling starving. I'm just feeling satisfied. And knowing that at that point is when you then stop eating, as opposed to just eating for the sake of it, eating because you want to finish the plate, eating because everyone else is eating. All those other reasons that we sort of tend to eat for. Yes, Edith.
you feel guilty.
Why?
You feel guilty, and especially when your family's been brought up with no food, and we're covered with food, and mum and dad say, no, we don't like food. So to break that
Cycle,
guilt,
yeah.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
know, and it is so hard. I know it is really hard, because it was exactly the same in my house, you know, that we were sort of told to finish what's in front of us, because yeah, absolutely, you don't want to waste food, but we don't have to waste the food. We don't have to necessarily throw it out. You can package it up and have it for leftovers the next day for lunch or that type of thing. Yeah. Or the other thing is too, is serving a bit less. You know, you don't have to sort of actually do the huge big servings. It drives me crazy. One of my pet hates is going out for dinner and they charge you $45 for a meal, and it's a huge big whopping meal. I would much rather be charged $30 and be given less, you know, so because I just think, but we've got this idea of like that more is better quality, or more is sort of, you know, is better value for money. But it just sets us up. It sets us up to feel like we've then got to finish it, and we really don't have to finish it. But I get what you're saying, Edith, in that it is hard to sort of change that idea around finishing everything that's in front of you, because for so many of us, it's been drummed into us big time. But you don't have to then treat yourself like you're the garbage bin because you're worried about putting the food into the garbage bin as such. You know, try to find other ways to use it, or again, yeah, just actually doing smaller meals from the first point. An acronym that I like to use is the HALT acronym. So if you're somebody that tends to go to food in times of tiredness or emotional distress or that type of thing, reasons other than being hungry as such, HALT is a really good acronym to sort of become familiar with. So the H is for hungry, the A is for anxious, the L is for lonely, and the T is for tired. Now, if when you think, I might just go and have something to eat, and if you say to yourself, HALT, are you hungry, or are you anxious, lonely, tired, overwhelmed? If you're any of those other reasons, you need to find other strategies aside from food, because it's getting into the habit of relying on food for that idea of comfort and for fixing problems. But food will never, ever fix an emotional problem. If that makes sense. You know, it feels like it's going to, it feels like it's going to be helpful. And it might be for a few moments, but pretty quickly you then start to feel like that hasn't actually fixed any of my anxiety or loneliness or tired. You know, I'm exhausted. I should just actually go to bed and go and have some sleep, you know, rather than trying to eat my way through my tiredness, you know. So the HALT acronym is just a really nice one, just to sort of remind yourself about, why am I eating? Could I be doing something else as opposed to just going to the kitchen? And yes, doing some regular physical activity is always going to be a wonderful addition to anyone's day. When you are looking at recipe modification, if you're somebody that bakes, I really like to bake. I bake a fair bit. I will always never put the same amount of sugar in as what the recipe asks for. I find that generally speaking, it's always a bit too generous. So reducing the sugar or adding sort of other ways to sweeten it or to bulk it up. I really like these carrot and apple muffins where there's very little sugar, but there's lots of grated carrot and apple in them. You know, that's another really good way to do that. And obviously, yeah, using healthier cooking methods rather than deep frying or shallow frying, that type of thing. Doing like stir fries, roasting, steaming, microwaving, grilling. I personally don't have an air fryer, but everyone tells me that I'm not living because I don't have one. But if you are somebody that uses air fryer too, then that's also a really good way to cook as well. Now, I just sort of threw this in because sometimes people like to have a snapshot as to what a sort of ideal day can sort of look like. So there's obviously a lot of versions and variations to this. I've kept it very, very simple. But basically starting with a breakfast, starting with a high fiber one, so it doesn't have to be Weet-Bix, it might be muesli or porridge or or bran or something like that. You're having a little bit of fresh fruit with it. You're having your yogurt for that extra protein. And then you're also having some mixed nuts or some mixed seeds on it as well. Okay. So that's a really nice, filling, satisfying breakfast. And then down the bottom, I want you to be eating regularly. So then the next 2 to 3 hours, then you're going to have, maybe you have a tea or a coffee. And depending what you've had for breakfast, you might want to have some Vita Wheats with some cheese and Vegemite, or you might want to have another piece of fresh fruit because you're trying to get you 2 pieces of fruit in each day. You might, what else? You might want to have even a boiled egg. Like, that's a great snack, a really, really good one. I know people go, oh, boiled eggs, but they're so good for you and so filling. And then for lunch, you might have those leftovers that Edith didn't eat the night before because she was pushing her plate away. And then you're having your salad, roll or wrap or something like that as well. Afternoon tea, hummus with some chopped up veggies, that type of thing. And then for dinner, you're going to have half your plate full of vegetables and salad, your protein source, and then also your quarter of your whole grains, your complex carbohydrates. So drinking plenty of water as well throughout that day. And as always, eating a really wide variety of plants, eating a really wide variety of all the fruits and the vegetables and the colour. Okay. So again, I totally appreciate and respect that this is not a possible day every single day of the week. Do I eat like this every single day? No. But I work towards it and I aim toward trying to do that. It definitely doesn't happen every single day, but I am a work in progress. Goal setting. Now, we obviously touched on this at the very start in your introductory session. So you guys are very welcome to go away and just sort of reassess your goals. If you wanted to sort of tweak them slightly, or they're not feeling very achievable, or maybe you have already achieved them, if that's you, that's fantastic. You might just like to sort of up them a little bit. But coming back to your goals and looking at them and reassessing them is really helpful, rather than just shelving them and saying, yeah, like, you know, it's just too hard, or I'm feeling like it's not going to work or whatever. Tweak them. If you're finding that you can't do your 3 walks each week, or whatever it was that we originally said, drop it back to 2. It doesn't matter. We want you to achieve them. We want you to get that little buzz that happens when you actually achieve something and you can tick it off. So don't just shelve it because it's feeling too hard. Instead, tweak it. Because if we said it at the very start, I want you to be doing 3 walks, and prior to that you weren't doing any walks, 2 walks is way better than no walks, you know? So be realistic, but make sure that when you are tweaking your goals, that they are still specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic, and they're time bound. So we're not just going to say, oh, I'm just going to change my goal to, I'll lose weight. How are you going to do that? What are you doing? Like there's the idea of having a goal of I will lose weight is not very helpful, because there's nothing there that tells you what to do. Okay, so it needs to be more specific. Okay, so go back and retweak your goals if you feel that you need to, and if not, keep at them. Ideas for setting your healthy eating goals. So reducing your fat intake. If you're somebody that uses margarine, maybe you might want to swap it out for avocado or use it more sparingly. Go easy on the fried foods, go easy on the takeaway, that type of thing. Stick to your olive oil. That's a fine version of oil. But yes, reducing your saturated fat intake by removing the fat on your red meat, not eating the chicken skin, using a small amount of margarine, not guzzling coconut oil. I don't care who tells you it's so super good for you. It is full of saturated fat. Okay. And yeah, if you wanted to try, if you're somebody that has a lot of dairy and you think maybe I should swap it out for low fat, by all means, do that. Okay. So those are some sort of good ways in which you can try and reduce the amount of saturated and trans fats, and be really mindful of all those baked goods. They tend to be full of it. Good websites for recipes. Again, I just threw this one in because sometimes a lot of people will say, I need some ideas for cooking. And I totally get that. I get sick to death of coming up with meals all the time. But the CSIRO Total Wellbeing Diet is a really good one. They have cookbooks. So I have a few of the CSIRO wellness cookbooks, and they're really good. They're really sort of simple, easy, but well-balanced meals. Live Lighter, which is where this little card came from. That was an initiative by Diabetes Vic a few years ago. But that website is still live and still has some good recipes on it. Eating Well website, which I haven't really used. Another person in another life group mentioned that one to me. So I had a quick look at it though. It looked quite good. Is there any other places that you guys go for recipes that I can add to my list that I might not know about or that you find really helpful? Not as such. No, that's fine. Okay, so how to increase your fibre intake. Eating your high fibre cereals, like I said, having your multigrain breads, your wholemeal breads, your wholemeal pastas, your wholemeal rices, all those things. Getting to your 5 serves of vegetables each and every day. That's a big task. That's asking for a lot of food. So I respect that not everyone can get there. But even if you're getting to 3 or 4, I'd be wrapped with that. 2 pieces of fruit each day. Adding more legumes. So adding those, if you're someone that cooks bolognese each week, add a can of lentils to that bolognese. You can add lentils to almost any mince dish. Or if you're a family that likes to have Mexican, you add your kidney beans to the taco mix. You know, trying to find ways. Legumes and chickpeas and that type of thing are actually a lot more versatile than what people give them credit for. You've just got to start using them, okay? Decreasing salt intake. So Edith, we're not going to have salt on the table anymore. We're not going to be like my husband who can't help himself, but every time he cooks pasta, without me looking, he tries to sneak in big teaspoons of salt into the water. And of course it tastes delicious, but we just don't need it. You know, we just don't need it. So anyway, trying to opt for low salt, reduced salt, where you can. And just like I said, using other flavors to enhance your meals, not always relying on the salt. Just like it says there, lemon, garlic, vinegar, fresh herbs, dried herbs, chili, pepper, all those things are really good options as well. Okay, I've gone a little bit over time, but I'm not too bad. So small changes can lead towards a big, big difference. I'm not asking you guys to overhaul your entire diet. I just want to see some tweaks. Eating well can be achieved with small diet changes. It doesn't have to be difficult, nor is it about restricting and cutting out and being starving. Most of the time, it's about actually adding some more variety to your diet. Having a plan makes it more likely that you will succeed, okay? When we break it down into little goals, it makes it a bit more palatable. It makes it feel like we can actually achieve it rather than just like I said, I will lose weight. How? How are you actually going to do that? Now, this one, I don't normally do this one, to be honest, because, well, it's really a selfish reason because I just don't really eat out a whole lot. So, but if you guys would like to save I'd be more interested in your shopping list docket. I would love to have a sticky beak at that, as opposed to the actual restaurant menus as such, because I don't really know how they would do that. Are you going to walk out with the menu? It doesn't really make sense, this activity. So let's not worry too much about it. Instead, if you feel brave enough to bring your shopping supermarket thing, I would love to see that. You don't have to do that because of COVID. In your booklet, while I lean down, in session 2, there's lots of really good readings in there as well, particularly at the end of the section. The section. So just going over and just reading that after tonight will be really helpful, just to really sort of cement the ideas in there as well. Now, I think that's right. Is that 2 weeks from today? I'm pretty sure anyway, but regardless, we will catch up in 2 weeks on Tuesday night, as always, at 7 p.m. I think it's 7th of December anyway, but if I'm mistaken, please don't quote me on that. The next session I will still be there, of course, but the next session is run by a lovely physiotherapist called Jane, because it's all about physical activity. So yeah, I always find it really helpful and really interesting, that session, but I will still be there, of course. But she will just be the hostess with the mostess as such. I've been through so much information. Do you guys have any questions or anything that is, you know, feeling confusing or you're unsure about? And please also, as always, if you want to send me an email after tonight because you suddenly think of something in the next few days, you're very welcome to do that as well. Any questions, guys? Yes, Edith, please.
I don't know if you heard of Vegeta. It's like a vegetable stock.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Vegeta, yeah.
Yeah. How high is that? Is that all?
It's really high. Yeah. Are you saying how high is it in salt?
Yes.
Yeah. So stock is pretty much just salt.
Yeah.
So Vegeta is a little bit better because it actually has a bit of the chopped dried herbs in it.
Okay.
So it's a
Okay.
slightly better stock.
Okay.
But I would just still use it sparingly, and I wouldn't use it
Okay.
the amount that they say, because I'm pretty sure they say like a heaped teaspoon or
Teaspoon, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So perhaps just try to
Yeah.
use a little bit
And
less of
then-
it than that.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. Great question. Thanks, Edith.
Thank you.
I've got a question too.
Yeah, good. What's yours, Katie?
So I just got this here as well, which has got a 4-star rating on it. But the sugars are 18.9 and the carbohydrates are 41.1. Does that sound like it's something good?
What are they saying is a serving?
20 grams, so 4 pieces, not much. That's the bit, yeah, I was wondering. So, yeah.
So would you eat more than that in a go?
Well, it says 6 servings per package. So, yeah, I probably would. I don't eat a lot because I have wondered sort of that it doesn't look great.
Yeah. And what?
But, yeah, four's not very big. It's like,
Yeah, little things. Yeah.
dice.
Oh, like a dice. Yeah. Wow,
Yeah,
that
like
is
it,
small.
yeah, teeny, yeah.
Oh, so you can eat way more than 4 then. That's not many at all.
Yes. Yeah, you're not going to, just stick with 4 probably.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the
So
trick,
when you
isn't it?
only have 4 of those, it's 20
Yeah.
grams. So
Yeah.
the sugar content is not too bad. But if you go to having, double that and then
Yes.
going on again, so it just really depends. If you're having handfuls of them, then yes, it's going to be really high in sugar. But what are they? Is it like oat clusters or something? Like what are they actually made out of?
Yeah, just these ones are pistachio and cranberry, dairy, honey, gluten, artificial additives. It's a slow, dry, roasted, nutritious snack, all natural, plant-based. I don't know.
Yeah. And those are all true claims. But that kind of stuff, if you're really enthusiastic, you're always going to be much better off making it yourself, because then you can sort of sort out your own ratios of dry fruit to nuts and things, because they will always bulk it up with the cheaper ingredients, which is going to be the dried fruits and the oats and that type of thing. Whereas we would rather it be a greater portion of nuts and oats and that type of thing, rather than it just being the dried fruit, because the dried fruit is where you're going to be getting that sugar content getting sort of higher as such. But again, it seems like a fine snack, but just be mindful of how much you are actually having of it when you do sit down to eat them. That's all. You might just need to sort of portion them out yourself, so you're not having 100 grams, because then that would be a lot of sugar.
In your pack, it's not that big.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah, great question.
Right, thank you.
Anybody else?
I have one quick one.
Yeah.
We talked about coconut oil. What about MCT oil, the medium chain triglyceride? That's also, I think it's coconut oil, but I came across it while researching about bulletproof coffee and keto coffees and all that. They put a little bit of that.
So why are you having it?
Just because the internet said it's a good thing to have replace your flat white with espresso and a little bit of MCT oil.
Oh, Anshel, I feel like I'm going to call bollocks on it, okay? You don't need to do it. I would actually just rather you having the flat white or having the coffee. I feel like it's just going to be an expensive way and a not very palatable way. Is it actually nice adding oil to your coffee?
the espresso sort of kills my taste buds anyway, so I don't feel anything. I just put a little bit of it, but I think I guess it's a marketing spin, and I should stay away from marketing. I guess that's the lesson.
I know. It's so hard. It's so hard. I see like all these beautiful influencers on Instagram having like they add butter to their coffee because and I just think, why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. So I understand that there is a bit of theory behind it, but it's very poor science. There's actually not. I would much rather you just have the coffee and really enjoy the coffee and not worry about trying to add sort of another, medium chain.
The person who told me about is an ultra marathon runner, so probably it makes sense for him to have it.
He can get away with it, yes, because
Okay.
he's just burning it up straight away. You and me, we
Yeah,
are
I've-
burning that up straight away.
I forgot about that part. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Oh, and you thought you were an ultra marathon runner. What a shame. Poor Anshul. Thank you, guys. It was so nice to see you all. Oh, yeah, Edith, go. Yeah, go. No, you're right. Sorry, I'm just conscious of you guys getting back to your life.
That's fine. I just want to inquire about the sugar.
Yeah.
What about the honey?
Yes. So honey, look, there is honey is still sugar, of course. So
Okay, yeah,
don't be fooled by thinking that if I'm
Yeah.
having a teaspoon of sugar instead, if I replace it with a teaspoon of honey, that it's doing anything better for my body, because your body will not digest the honey differently to the sugar, to the raw sugar as such. So
Okay.
in small, look, there is a tiny little nutritional benefit to honey, but we
Yeah.
would never be eating enough of that honey to actually get the
Okay.
nutritional benefit from it. So if you like a bit of sweetened stuff, sure, use some honey, like there's no issue there,
Yeah.
but don't fool yourself into thinking that you're actually doing your body a better job
Okay.
by having the honey. It's still
Okay.
sugar is sugar. And it's the same thing with all the other, nicely packaged up sugars as such. Your body will still digest it exactly the same. And if you haven't done enough exercise or moved your body enough, it will store it as fat.
Okay.
Simply like that. Okay.
Yeah.
But yes,
Cool.
another great question. Yes, there is a bit of stuff out there about how honey's the sort of premium.
So we're not too bad.
No, that's right. Too bad. Not too bad, Edith.
What about sugar substitute like Equal and Stevia and those kind of stuff?
Yeah. So those look, the trouble with the artificial sweeteners is that we don't have any long-term data on what their effects can be. So we always sort of like to err on the side of consuming them with a little bit of caution. So if you are, but then as well, having said that, they are also really heightened sweetener, of course. So if you're having it occasionally, it's totally fine. But if you're having a diet Coke or a no sugar Coke every single day because you're trying to not have full strength Coke, well, then perhaps there might start to be a bit of an issue. We don't want to be having too much of the artificial sweetener because, again, we just don't know what the long-term effects of that stuff is. So definitely having an artificial sweetener occasionally is fine, is no worries, and your body will digest that differently. So that is different, definitely. But yeah, if you felt like having, a no sugar Coke every now and again, that is absolutely fine. I will not pull you over the coals for that just yet, okay? But your thing that you showed me before, Anshul, I might pull you over the coals for that, okay?
Finally, something I use that I can have.
Yeah.
Right? That's good.
Good.
I'll take that.
My work here is done. You're very welcome. No, thank you, guys. Any more questions? I don't want to. No, you're done? Okay, excellent. But you know that you can email me, so don't be shy. I'm very happy to help at any time. Thank you so much. I will see you in 2 weeks' time. And yes, send through any questions. I'm happy to help at any stage, okay? Thank you, guys. It was lovely to see you all. Thanks, Dee. Bye, Katie. See you, Anshul. Bye, Edith. See you.
Yeah.